A century ago, James Reese Europe, also known as Jim Europe, introduced Europeans and the world to ragtime and early jazz forms during World War I. When people today hear the music, they'd say the band blew up. According to Noble Sissel, a contemporary, when the jazz germ hit France, it spread everywhere the band went. Over the years, Europe's accomplishments have remained unforgettable.
Born in the deep south of Mobile, Alabama, James Reese Europe, 1880 to 1919, would become a significant influence on the role of black music in ragtime-era America. One of 6 children from a musical family, James, a talented musician, achieved numerous firsts in bringing African-American musicians and music into the mainstream. Upon moving to New York City, James Reese Europe, a musician and bandleader, made the first of a series of phonograph records for the Victor Talking Machine Company in 1913, making him one of the earliest Americans to record music. This was noteworthy because the recording opportunity arose from the organization Europe had built, which was part fraternal organization and part musicians' union. The club purchased a building on West 53rd Street, which served as both a club and office. U.B. Blake said, "Europe was our benefactor and inspiration. He was even more than that. He was the Martin Luther King of music." At the onset of World War I, Reese joined the New York National Guard and was soon commissioned as a lieutenant. He was assigned to the all-black 369th U.S. Infantry Regiment. When his musical background became known, his commanding officer, Colonel Hayward, asked Europe to form a military band as part of his combat unit. Hayward instructed Europe to recruit musicians wherever he could, and Reese did just that. Aware of the challenge of convincing musicians from New York to enlist, he even traveled as far as Puerto Rico to enlist the musicians he needed. That band became known as the 369th U.S. Infantry Hellfighters Band. What is not well known is that Europe was assigned to a machine gun platoon, making him the first African-American officer to command troops during wartime. Part of the obligation of any military band during wartime is to lift morale, and the Harlem Hellfighters Band was dearly loved and highly sought after by officers and enlisted men alike. Their music was superb, and they were playing a type of music that many Americans and most Europeans never heard, jazz. The New York Times, the 10th of May 1919, wrote that he played numerous times for General Pershing and French President Raymond Poincaré. French General Henri Guiraud would risk defeat to travel 100 miles to hear Jimmy's Jazz Band. The 369th were called the Fighting 369th. For a reason, they actually fought. Specifically, the band performed as jazz musicians with many from the group serving as machine gunners. Europe was often found at his station barking orders for the machine gunners. However, the band was in such demand he was often out on tour with them. Nevertheless, in June of 1918 he was with his band of machine gunners in battle when they were victims of a gas attack. Europe had to be transferred to a field hospital to recover. When fellow soldier and musician, Noble Sissel, stopped in to visit him, he found Europe propped up in bed writing music. The song he composed, On Patrol in No Man's Land, was one of the most popular songs the group played after returning to the States.
Upon arriving in New York, the band participated in a parade in their honor up Fifth Avenue. Europe had become a household name in New York's music scene as well as the nationwide dance charts. Europe was hailed as America's jazz king and signed a second recording contract. Shortly after, the band embarked on an extensive national tour. Only 3 months into the tour, the band was performing in Boston. Drummer Herbert Wright, one of the percussion twins, became angered when Europe suggested he needed to put more pep in the sticks. The New York Times, May 10, 1919, during intermission, Wright followed Europe to his dressing room and after a short argument, Wright drew a knife and slashed Europe in the neck. Europe did not survive the attack and was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. New York City provided the official funeral for James Reese Europe, the first ever held for an African American. Wright was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison after pleading guilty to manslaughter. Despite Europe's short life, he left an indelible mark on the music world of the day as well as the music to come. Through his direct association with Noble Sissle, U.B. Blake, Bix Beiderbecke, and George Gershwin, he helped shape the future of American music. Europe brought ragtime out of the bordellos and juke joints into mainstream society, which elevated African American music into an accepted art form.
Lieutenant James Europe, bandleader and composer, fought in the 369th the African American Regiment nicknamed the Hell Fighters. He was the leader of its band, traveling through France giving performances for troops and civilians alike. A legacy to be remembered for the next 100 years. We can continue to honor James Reese Europe and these valiant men by supporting the Frederick Douglass Cemetery on Staten Island, where several 369th soldiers are interred.